What if you walked into a restaurant and never walked out? Terrifying, right? In 1984, tragedy struck San Isidro, California. A mass shooting at a McDonald's shocked the nation. We'll explore this devastating event today. On July 18, 1984, an average day turned dark. A lone gunman entered the restaurant. The community was unprepared for the chaos that followed. Let's break down what happened step by step. The shooter, James Huberty, arrived with a rifle and handgun. He began firing indiscriminately. Patrons and employees panicked, seeking safety. Emergency services received calls the moment shots rang out. Police rushed to the scene, but Huberty held everyone hostage. The crisis lasted more than an hour. As we look deeper, it's crucial to understand the aftermath. This event highlighted flaws in emergency response protocols. The dispatcher struggled to get accurate information. Imagine a world where communication flows smoothly. How different might the outcome have been? It's important to recognize that every second matters in emergencies. The shooting ended when a police sharpshooter finally shot Huberty. In total, 21 innocent lives were lost. Many families faced unimaginable grief. In summary, the 1984 McDonald's Massacre profoundly impacted society. It raised questions about gun control, emergency preparedness, and mental health. Now consider what you can do. Stay informed about safety protocols in public spaces. Talk about the importance of mental health support. Together we can work towards preventing future tragedies. Share this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content like this. On that fateful day, the chaos unfolded in a place meant for families and friends to gather, now transformed into a scene of horror. As the sound of gunfire echoed through the restaurant, many patrons crouched beneath tables, their hearts racing in fear for their lives. The gunman, James Huberty, was consumed by a rage that seemed to know no bounds. With each pull of the trigger, the innocence of that day faded further, and desperate cries for help filled the air. Those who managed to escape shared harrowing accounts, forever haunted by the echoes of trauma that followed them. Panic-stricken parents instinctively shielded their children, whispering words of reassurance that felt futile in the face of danger. As Huberty's rampage continued, the horrifying reality of their situation set in. They were trapped in a nightmare with no escape. Outside, the police arrived, desperate to gain control of the situation, yet their initial attempts to negotiate were met with silence. The streets of San Isidro, usually bustling with life, now lay eerily still, punctuated only by the sound of sirens and the distant cries of those left inside. As the hours dragged on, hope began to wane, and fear transformed into a palpable tension that gripped everyone involved. The community felt helpless, waiting for a resolution that seemed increasingly out of reach. Amid the escalating chaos, the voices of children intertwined with the sounds of terror, creating a haunting symphony of innocence lost. With every gunshot, their laughter faded, replaced by the stark reality of survival. Meanwhile, officers waited anxiously for a sign of cooperation, grappling with the severe urgency of the moment. Inside the restaurant, a few brave souls attempted to communicate their location, whispering desperate information into their phones, hoping to aid the police as they formulated a plan. Yet the wait felt interminable as time stretched on, with each ticking second echoing the enormity of the tragedy unfolding. As the standoff dragged on, tension mounted both inside and outside the restaurant. Officers made frantic attempts to assess the situation, weighing the risks of intervention against the need to save lives. In the end, the tragic events of July 18, 1984, served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability we all share in public spaces, highlighting the urgent need for collective awareness and action to foster safety and support mental well-being in our communities. On that day, countless families expected a simple meal, but instead faced unfathomable horror. Witnesses recalled the unbearable tension that hung in the air, the heart-wrenching cries of children searching for their parents amidst the chaos. As fear coursed through the crowd, some individuals exhibited remarkable bravery, risking their own lives to assist others. One woman, despite her own panic, guided a group of terrified children towards a back exit, urging them to stay low and quiet. The overwhelming urge to survive ignited an unexpected camaraderie among strangers as they held each other close, forming a protective barrier against the violence. Outside, the sound of sirens grew louder, blending with the pleas for help echoing from within the restaurant, creating a haunting backdrop that would forever linger in the minds of those who witnessed it. The reality of the crisis deepened as the minutes stretched on, each second punctuated by the terrifying sound of gunfire. As the situation escalated, the tension reached a breaking point, and the police were left with no choice but to implement their emergency protocol. Officer Jim Carranza coordinated the response from a distance, urgently relaying information and strategizing a plan for extraction. Each officer felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that the lives of innocent people hung in the balance. The sounds of shuffling feet and whispered commands created a cacophony of urgency as they worked feverishly to devise a way to end the nightmare. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, while thoughts raced through their minds. What if they failed? They moved cautiously near the restaurant's entrance, determined to neutralize the threat and rescue those still trapped inside, but the stakes had never been higher. Time continued to slip away, with each moment stretching out like an eternity. Inside, tension morphed into despair as the innocent began to feel the weight of hopelessness. Parents began to gather their children close, whispering reassurances that were designed to comfort, but felt entirely inadequate against the unfolding nightmare. The air was thick with fear and confusion, a mixture of prayers uttered and muted cries for help rising to the ceiling. As minutes turned into an hour, reflections on life beyond those walls grew fainter. Outside, Officer Carranza and his team prepared for any opportunity to act, exchanging resolute glances that held unspoken commitments to protect the vulnerable. The urgency to save lives served as their guiding beacon, pushing them forward even as uncertainty loomed. They could hear the muffled sounds of chaos from within, but they were more determined than ever to restore safety to the shattered lives inside that restaurant. As the police strategized, each officer felt the gravity of the moment, understanding that the lives of those held hostage rested on their shoulders. They eyed the windows, searching for any sign of movement, hoping for a glimpse of survivors still clinging to hope inside. Suddenly, a muffled cry reached their ears, sending a jolt of adrenaline through the officers. They instinctively moved closer, hearts racing, and the air thick with tension intensified. A breakthrough seemed imminent, yet the reality of imminent danger loomed larger than ever. With each passing moment, they were all acutely aware that time was running out, and lives hung in the balance, needing intervention as soon as possible. As the tension mounted, overhead sirens continued to scream into the silence, a mournful reminder of the urgency to act quickly. Officer Carranza exchanged frantic glances with his team, each subtle nod fortified with an understanding of their shared mission to save lives at any cost. Inside, one of the hostages, a mother, dared to comfort her child, whispering words of love as tremors of fear coursed through her. Desperate to protect her from the reality surrounding them, she kept her grip firm, trying to shield her from the violence erupting just feet away. Time felt absurdly slow, yet every second increased the danger, with the shots outside echoing as somber reminders of the gravity of their situation. As police strategized, they prepared for the tragic possibility that they might have to confront the threat head-on, fueled by the hope of liberation and safety. Each heartbeat pulsed with anticipation as life and death decisions loomed over them. Would they be able to save those trapped inside before it was too late? The intensity of the situation escalated when a loud crash and a series of rapid gunshots rang out, drowning the fragile whispers of hope. Panic surged through the hostages. Hearts raced as despair threatened to consume them entirely. Outside the restaurant, Officer Carranza made a decisive call, instructing his team to prepare for a tactical breach. United in purpose, they readied their equipment and steeled themselves for the confrontation ahead. With an urgent sense of purpose, they positioned themselves strategically, the adrenaline fueling their determination. Meanwhile, inside, the mother held her child tightly, her mind racing with prayers for survival. As the world outside descended deeper into chaos, the stakes could not have been higher. They were about to take action that could end both the standoff and the harrowing nightmare. In that critical moment, the tension peaked as the officers prepared to breach the entrance, their breaths held tight with anticipation. As the officers burst through the door, the scene inside unfolded with chaotic urgency. Shouts filled the air, and the acrid smell of gunpowder mingled with the faint cries of the frightened. In that split second, hope flickered alive among hostages, knowing rescue had finally arrived. As the officers advanced, the realization of their mission ignited an unbreakable resolve within them. They were not just responding to a crisis, but fighting to reclaim lost innocence and usher hope back into a haunted space. Each second felt monumental as they moved closer to the source of despair, desperately seeking to turn the tide of terror. Inside, the mother shielded her child against the whirling chaos, whispering promises of safety that seemed tenuous yet necessary. The cacophony of gunfire mixed with the haunting echoes of cries transformed the restaurant into both a battleground and a shelter where the fate of so many hung in the balance. Officers stormed through the entrance, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they swiftly surveyed the harrowing scene, prepared to confront the darkness that had invaded this once welcoming place. The officers moved swiftly, covering each other's backs as they navigated through the disarray of overturned furniture and scattered belongings. They shouted commands, directing the hostages to huddle together in one corner, their hearts racing with a mix of hope and fear. Huberty, cornered and enraged, continued his assault, unleashing a volley of bullets that ricocheted around the room, amplifying the terror clinging to the air. The crack of gunfire contrasted sharply with the desperate pleas that echoed off the walls, creating a hellish symphony of chaos. A moment of eye contact was shared among the officers, a silent acknowledgement of their collective purpose solidified as they pressed forward with methodical determination, holding on to the fragile belief that every second counted in the race for survival. The stakes were high, lives depended on their bravery and precision, and they needed to act quickly to prevent further loss. As they edged closer, they braced themselves for the uncertain confrontation ahead, resolved to bring an end to the nightmare and restore safety amidst the wreckage. Hope flickered in their hearts as they fought against despair, driven by the commitment to protect the innocent and reclaim the light that had been overshadowed by darkness. Amidst the chaos, a police officer spotted movement in the far corner, signaling to his team that the gunman was still active and lethal. Holding their breath, the officers exchanged glances, each silently acknowledging the gravity of the moment. They were not merely responding to an emergency, but were now participants in a fight for survival. Just then, a loud, explosive sound erupted, followed by a breathless silence that enveloped the restaurant. It was an unexpected burst of activity, as those inside transferred from perilous constraint to a frantic scramble for safety. Desperation fueled their movements, hearts racing as they sought to break free from the grip of terror that clung so tightly. The officer leading the charge shouted clear instructions, urging survivors to follow him swiftly while remaining low to the ground. The sense of urgency hung palpably in the air as pulses quickened and instinct clashed with reason. Families were renewed with the flicker of possible salvation, propelling them toward the exit. One brave hostage took the lead, drawing others along with her, while the fleeting moments of fear morphed into resolute determination. They rushed past debris and chaos, no longer just survivors, but a collective force driven to escape the hell they experienced together. Even as they felt the weight of loss and sadness, the glimmer of hope shone brighter, a shared promise of safety just within reach. The officers, meanwhile, maintained their formation as they pressed forward, minds intensely focused on neutralizing the remaining threat while protecting those they had come to save. Murmurs of encouragement spurred them onward as the gunfire began to wane. Each step became a testament to their unwavering courage amid overwhelming adversity. They were racing against time itself, willing to barge into the face of danger for the sake of those still trapped. With unwavering vigilance, they maneuvered through the chaos, determined to restore the light of community and healing in that wounded space. The tension mounted, hearts thumping louder with every passing moment as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation that lay ahead. Still, their determination illuminated the path forward, reminding everyone involved that hope could emerge from the darkest moments. As the noise of chaos filled the air, the officers collectively tightened their grips on their weapons, focusing their minds on the task ahead. They were about to confront the individual who had plunged countless lives into fear. With an unshakable resolve, they moved in concert, executing the tactical advantage they had meticulously planned. In a moment that felt suspended in time, they cornered the gunman, Huberty, as he continued to unleash rounds with reckless abandon. Frustration and rage etched into his features. The officers understood that every action mattered. They had mere moments to end this before more lives were lost. Suddenly, amidst the horrifying scene, the crack of a gunshot pierced through the air, signaling the beginning of the end of this ordeal. The sharp sound of gunfire punctuated the air, sending adrenaline coursing through the officers' veins. They surged forward with determined resolve, eyes locked onto the gunman. In that instant, they recognized the gravity of their choice, one that could mean the difference between life and death for everyone still inside. As they pressed closer, forming a united front, the desperate cries of the hostages fueled their urgency, reminding each officer of the innocent lives at stake. With every step, courage intertwined with fear, creating an intense atmosphere permeated by the gravity of the situation. It was now or never, as the officers prepared for the climactic confrontation, ready to face the darkness that had invaded a space meant for laughter and joy. Each heartbeat echoed like thunder in their minds, urging them forward to reclaim safety and hope amidst the chaos, dispelling the shadow looming over San Isidro. The gunman, realizing his position was compromised, turned his anger toward the officers, firing off shots in rapid succession. Each gunshot rang like a deafening toll, a somber reminder of the stakes at hand. The officers quickly found cover, returning fire with precision, well-trained instincts propelling them into action. Outside, the community held its breath, anxiously waiting for any news, their hearts collectively aching for those inside. Moments felt like hours as officers maneuvered through the wreckage, calling out for the hostages, urging them to stay low and quiet. Fear and chaos danced in a deadly rhythm, but within the storm of bullets, a flicker of hope began to shine through. The unwavering determination to save lives sparked a fierce resolve among the officers, tightening their ranks as they prepared for decisive action. As the chaos reached its zenith, the officers maintained their focus. Each shot fired a reminder of the urgent need for resolution. Amid the firing, one officer spotted a young girl frozen in fear, hiding behind a table, completely unnoticed by the gunman. With his heart racing, he gestured to his partner, silently indicating that they needed to act swiftly to save her. Together they moved with calculated precision, turning their attention toward Huberty while keeping an eye on the terrified child. The air was thick with tension, punctuated only by the painful gunshots that echoed through the restaurant, but the officers were fueled by a fierce determination to protect and rescue at all costs. The sound of sirens outside blended with the chaos, a reminder that the cavalry had arrived, though they were still waiting for the right moment to intervene and restore peace. As the officers continued to brace themselves for the intense confrontation, they understood that they had to act not just for themselves, but for every life in that restaurant, reminding themselves of the hope that still flickered amidst the shadows. With precision and purpose, the officers unleashed a barrage of return fire, the sound echoing like thunder in the chaos. They were determined to neutralize the threat that loomed so perilously over the innocent lives nestled within those walls. With the gunshots ringing in their ears, they navigated through the debris, desperate to reach the hostages while simultaneously keeping a watchful eye on Huberty. Time felt warped, and the tension in the air thickened as they moved closer to their goal, resolute in their mission to protect the vulnerable. Behind them, whispers of encouragement emerged from the hostages, who were now teetering between hope and terror, each officer serving as a beacon of potential safety. They gestured to the civilians, urging them to remain quiet and hidden, their hearts beating in sync with the titanic struggle unfolding before them. In that fraught moment, a palpable sense of unity emerged, binding officers with the hostages, reinforcing the stark truth that they were all perilously intertwined in this fight for survival. As the tension peaked, the officers managed to flank the gunmen, creating a clear line of sight. In the ensuing chaos, Huberty's eyes flickered with desperation mixed with rage, his resolve fracturing as he realized the imminent threat surrounding him. Just a few feet away, the terrified hostages clung to each other, their collective hope ignited by the sight of their potential rescuers. Time seemed to slow as the officers exchanged knowing glances, a silent vow to end this nightmare once and for all. Suddenly, drawing upon their extensive training, one officer shouted a warning, prompting the others to take decisive action. In that crucial instant, they unleashed a concentrated volley of fire, purpose and precision driving their aim. The restaurant echoed with the finality of their determination, a symphony of courage answering the cries for safety. The air crackled with tension as the officers unleashed a coordinated barrage of gunfire, aimed not just at stopping Huberty, but also at breaking the cycle of fear that had ensnared the hostages. Each shot became a rallying cry, igniting flickers of hope among those trapped. The gunman staggered, his grip on chaos faltering as he was met with relentless resolve and unwavering courage. In that moment, the restaurant transformed. It no longer held the weight of despair, but instead became a battleground for restoration, a place where innocence would once again find refuge. Just as the echoes of gunfire began to fade, the realization washed over everyone inside. They were no longer trapped in a nightmare, but emerging with a chance to reclaim their lives and their stories. Amidst the chaos and turmoil, the quick decision-making of the officers began to show its effects. With Huberty's resolve crumbling, moments of disbelief filled the air. Hope surged among those still hidden, whispering silent prayers for survival. The officers maintained their focus, ensuring that each action propelled them closer to the goal of freeing every last hostage. The air thickened with tension as a mix of fear and cautious optimism enveloped the room, underscoring the precious lives still at risk. Just then, the officers noticed small movements, a sign that resilience thrived among the hostages, a united front against the lingering darkness. Unbeknownst to them, their shared strength sparked a light in the dim reality, igniting a determination that mirrored their own. As they pressed forward, adrenaline fueled their resolve, and each moment of hesitation transformed into decisive action, drawing closer to the bittersweet end of a horror they would never forget. The air shuddered with relief as the final shots rang out, Huberty collapsing to the ground, silenced forever. Officers rushed into the restaurant, yelling for any remaining hostages to come forward. A wave of emotions washed over those who had endured this harrowing ordeal: shock, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. As the remaining survivors slowly emerged, the officers embraced them, offering comfort and reassurance amidst the lingering fear. Outside, the community erupted into cheers, filled with gratitude for the courageous police response that had ultimately brought an end to the disaster. But deep within those walls, the memories of that tragic day would forever leave an indelible mark on every soul present, a somber reminder of the resilience in the face of unimaginable horror. As time went on, this day would unite the community in healing, fostering discussions on safety, mental health, and the importance of supporting one another through adversity. As the dust began to settle from the ordeal, the restaurant was transformed, forever marked by the remnants of chaos and loss. Survivors shared their stories, their voices trembling, capturing the raw emotions of that day and its impact on their lives. The scars of that fateful day ran deep, but as the community gathered together to support one another, a sense of resilience began to emerge. Conversations about healing, both physical and emotional, opened avenues for understanding and compassion among survivors and their families. The stories shared became threads woven into a new narrative, a narrative of hope, unity, and the unwavering strength of the human spirit. The legacy of that tragic day extends far beyond the walls of the restaurant, fostering a renewed commitment to safety and urging systemic change. As we reflect on the events of July 18, 1984, let us honor the lives lost by advocating for a future where compassion prevails over violence.